Here we go. All right. Today we're going to be cooking dal tadka, which is tempered lentils, and it's very common in India. It's something that's probably cooked every day, every meal in many households. It's a staple, and it's always accompanied by vegetables. Like you always have a bowl of dal, you have a bowl of vegetables or meat, then you have your roti, naan, or chapati, whatever, along with rice. So dal tadka is something that's very common in Indian cuisine, in day-to-day Indian cooking. In hotels and restaurants, they give this a rich taste by adding in more oil, by adding in some cream. You have variations of dal. You have black dal. You have just plain dal, not the tadka type kind of dal. A tadka just basically means tempering. So we cook the lentils separate, and then we cook the spices, the garlic, the onions and tomatoes separate, and then we put it together and just let it come to a boil. So the lentils themselves aren't being cooked with any spices, but you'll be tempering the spices and the tomatoes and onions and then adding it to the lentils. Along with this, I'm going to tell you how to be cooking Jeera rice, which is just cumin flavored rice. It's it's as good as white rice, plain rice, but you get a little fresh flavor of cumin, and it goes really well with dal tadka. So let's start the cooking by introducing you to the ingredients. The first thing you will need is finely chopped onions. You'll need two large finely chopped onions. You'll need six large chopped tomatoes. Garlic cloves, you'll need around 20 garlic cloves. Some curry leaves, around 20 curry leaves, and one bunch of finely chopped coriander. This is our lentil that we are cooking. We call it moong dal, but I think the correct English term is split yellow moong lentil. So uh, it's basically split mung lentil. When I was looking up moong dal in English, it had a lot of there was a lot of variation, and I myself learned that moong dal comes from something called mung bean. Hey Deep, I'm eating salad again today, so I decided to do this to myself. Hey Ran, don't worry. Today's dish is very simple. It probably accompanies your salad, so you won't be feeling too jealous. So it comes from mung bean, which is then turned into split yellow monk or something like that. I don't know how it's produced, but you can get it in any supermarket or an Indian store. It's called moong dal or split yellow mung lentil. I've taken 1 cup of this lentil. You'll need turmeric, 1.5 teaspoons cumin, 2 teaspoons mustard seed, 2 teaspoons, and you'll need whole red chilies. These are dried red chilies that we'll be breaking each red chili into like 3 or 4 bits. You don't need a knife to even chop these dry red chilies. You just break them with your hand and it breaks apart. And we're going to be using 4 of them along with their seeds. Just break it into 3 pieces and they're ready to use. And you'll be needing asafoetida. Asafoetida is a powder that's it's called hing here, but it helps in digestion. Lentils are a little hard to digest, especially different kinds of lentils. So you will need this. Uh, it's a kind of a powdered substance. It aids in digestion, and it's always used in any lentil dish that is made. And in fact, a lot of other non-lentil dishes too to aid in digestion. You take your lentils, you wash them, and you drain them. After having washed them in water, you place them into your pressure cooker. This pressure cooker should be on your stove, but don't start the heat yet. You don't need to get the pressure cooker heated. You don't need to do anything. You just need to have your pressure cooker placed on the stove and just throw in your lentils in there, the washed and soaked lentils, drained lentils, I'm sorry. After that, you add in 600 milliliters of water. Add in 4 cloves of garlic. Add in half a teaspoon of cumin and half a teaspoon of turmeric. Sorry about that. Once you add in these ingredients, you place the lid on your pressure cooker and you start cooking your lentils. That's it. That's the only things that goes in to cook your lentils. And you'll be using a pressure cooker because the lentils need to cook well. And you'll be letting the pressure cooker do its job for 4 whistles. So turn up the heat on high flame. You're going to let the lentils cook until your pressure cooker whistles 4 times. While the lentil is cooking, you'll take a deep dish and add in oil. We'll be adding in 4 tablespoons of oil here. And we'll be heating it up. Once the oil is hot, we are going to add in our sliced onions. And we won't be browning the onions. Your lentils don't require your onions to be browned, but we need to cook the onions until they lose their bright pink color, as well as they lose their raw onion fragrance. So it takes around 40 to 50 seconds to cook these onions on high heat, and they lose their pink as well as their raw fragrance. Add in your salt immediately so that the onions start cooking faster, and start sauteing your onions on high heat. They lost their bright pink color. You can see a couple of them still have the bright pink color, but they started turning translucent and they lost their raw fragrance. At this point, we can go ahead and move on to the next step, which is adding in our chopped tomatoes. Dishes that don't need the onions browned completely are some of my favorite dishes because you don't need to spend 10 minutes browning onions. Here, the onions just need to cook until the raw fragrance is gone. And then you add in your tomatoes. Thank you, Zimmer, for the follow. You add in your tomatoes, you start cooking the tomatoes and the onions, and you cook them until all the moisture from the tomatoes and onion evaporates. Basically, you're just cooking them until all the moisture is gone. It takes around 6 to 7 minutes on high heat. You may need to you may need to place the lid on your tomatoes and let them cook. Add in your remaining turmeric, 1 teaspoon of turmeric, and start cooking your onions and tomatoes until all the moisture just evaporates. Basically, you're cooking them through and making them lose all their moisture, by the time when they lose all their moisture, they're completely cooked through and they can be transferred into your lentils. We cover up the cookware. We cover up the cookware so that the cooking process is fastened. We remove the cover, we remove the lid, just give it a stir, and then put the lid back again. Then remove the lid, give it a stir again. We continue doing this for 10 minutes, and after which the tomatoes should lose all their moisture. King Russell, we're cooking Dal Tadka, which is basically lentils. We're cooking some yellow lentils along with cumin rice. This is our lentils cooking just beside our onions and tomatoes. We need to keep them in the cooker for 4 whistles, and once 4 whistles are done, you're going to turn off the heat, and side by side, you're going to be cooking your tomatoes and onions. Once the tomatoes have been cooked thoroughly and lost all their moisture, it's just oil that remains. You're going to take a masher and lightly mash the onions and tomatoes. We don't want to turn them into a fine mash. We just want to make them all mushy. So you're going to mash them until they're mushy. Give them a stir again. And they are now ready to add into your lentils. Open the pressure cooker really carefully. If required, lift up the whistle, let all the pressure and heat from inside escape before you open it. It's really hot, it's really steaming, so be careful. The steam can burn your hands easily. That's the cooked lentils. It's just plain lentils right now. And lentils, while boiling, they just have a habit of trying to escape your pressure cooker. So don't worry if it's stuck all over your pressure cooker. Place your pressure cooker on a stove top and start boiling the lentils, and add in your tomatoes and onions that you have just cooked. So we cooked our onions and tomatoes separately. We tempered them separately. They go in, and you give it a good mix, so your lentils and the tomatoes and onions mix well. And then we're going to temper the spices and other things that we require. If the lentils that you cook are supposed to be mushy and supposed to be runny, they're not supposed to be thick. If you notice that your lentils aren't mushed up enough, take your masher and just run it through. You don't need to finely mush it, just roughly mush it through. And if it's thick, if your lentil is thick, you're going to add some water to thin it out. Hello there, Mama Chicken Lord. We're cooking some lentils, some yellow lentils, along with cumin flavored rice. You like cooking? Of course. I like cooking, especially Indian cuisine. You're going to add in some water just to thin out the lentils. There's no specified amount. You just want it thin and not a thick curry or a thick base. This is supposed to be free flowing basically, but you don't want it too thin either. You just need to maintain a medium consistency. Where's the meat? This dish has no meat. This particular dish has no meat. You're going to take a really small steel pan, which is a deep pan, hopefully. This we have a special name for this. It's called a tadka pan. So this is used to basically temper spices for dal. We have this tool just to make this particular dish. That's how famous this dish is and how common this dish is all over India. Sorry about that. To this pan, we'll be adding in 4 tablespoons of ghee or clarified butter. I made myself a sandwich. I like making American foods. Minecraft mushroom stew. Trust me, this is way better than Minecraft mushroom stew. Our clarified butter goes into our small pan, and we're going to heat it up until it's completely clear and all melted. It's on high heat to just get the ghee burning, basically. Keep stirring your lentils. Since they are on heat, you need to keep stirring it occasionally. Unless it heals 9 hearts, I'll say it's extremely good. Check if your ghee is hot. Once your ghee is hot, you're going to add in your remaining garlic. Remember, you put in 4 garlic cloves to the lentils earlier. So you're going to add in your remaining garlic cloves, and we're basically going to fry the garlic until it's got a nice brown coat. You see that the garlic are really bright white. We're going to be frying them until they're completely brown. They're coated in a nice dark brown color. It takes around a minute or approximately say 50 seconds for the garlic to fry, because we are cooking this in a really small pan, and we are also cooking this on high heat. So keep stirring your garlic, keep checking your garlic. You don't want to leave this unattended, and you don't want to burn your garlic. Burnt garlic also has a pretty nice flavor, but for the lentils you don't need the burnt garlic flavor. They started turning. They've started turning from bright white to brown, and you need to keep frying them until you notice a dark brown shade or a dark brown color on your garlic cloves. Once they get this color, you're going to drain the garlic from your pan. You're going to let the ghee be in the pan. You're going to remove the garlic and add it to the lentils. So you're seeing a pattern with this dish. Everything is being tempered and then added to your lentils separately. It isn't being cooked together. And this is called the tadka process. All that garlic goes in. If you think that's excessive, you can tone down on the garlic. But honestly, the garlic gives the lentils a lot of flavor. Stir your lentils so that the newly added garlic is mixed well and basically is able to give its flavors to everything. You will now let this ghee cool down. It's really hot, and you need to give the time for the ghee to cool down. You'll be leaving it to cool down for 60 seconds because we'll be adding spices in next, and spices cook faster and burn faster than garlic. So we're going to let the ghee cool down for a minute. It's almost like a meat dish. King Russell, India has the largest number of vegetarians worldwide, and our dishes are really flavorful, are really tasty, and really nutritious. So even dishes that lack meat are quite tasty. Even though I'm a huge chicken fan, I'm saying this. All I can say is my sandwich has a small taste of burnt garlic because it's my first time making it. Plus, I'm young and talented at cooking. If you're wondering how young, about 11. I see. I like Indian spices. Nice. There's garlic in almost everything you made so far, isn't it? Yes, there's garlic in everything I've cooked. There's garlic in everything that you usually cook. If not in whole garlic form, it's in the form of garlic paste. It's an essential part of cooking in India, I guess. There are dishes that are made without garlic, but those dishes are specifically for a diet called Jain diet, because they religiously don't eat garlic or anything basically that's grown underground. Hey Danater, how are you doing there? Welcome. Garlic has to be in every meal. In Indian meals, there is garlic everywhere. Once your ghee has cooled down, you still want it to be hot. You don't want it to be completely cooled down. So if it has completely cooled down, you're just going to turn on the stove and maintain a medium heat. Hey Petit, hey Slith, how are you guys doing? Hold on, I need to cough. Okay, the coughing. I blame the coughing for my mess up. I blame the coughing for my mess up. Okay. The link isn't working uh, because of the comma, I guess. But Danator is a part of the team that I accidentally joined, and she's helping raise money for the charity as well. I need to fix that command. But if you haven't dropped her a follow, drop her a follow. She's a creative streamer, and yesterday she did a lot of singing too. So okay, stop with the diff, please. Okay. Once your ghee is hot but not burning hot because you want to your spices to cook, you're going to put in 2 teaspoons of mustard seeds, 1.5 teaspoons of cumin. You're going to stir them around so that they start crackling in the hot ghee, and then you're going to turn off the flames. You're going to turn off the heat. The ghee is hot enough, you don't want things to burn, and you're going to add asafoetida. We add around 2 teaspoons of asafoetida. You need to pump it out of the box, but it's approximately 2 teaspoons. Then you add in your red chilies. Red chilies along with the seeds. We had taken 4 red chilies. We just broke it apart into half a piece each. And at the very end, at the absolute end, you're going to add in curry leaves, because curry leaves pop and curry leaves make the oil splatter, the ghee splatter everywhere. The ghee is so hot that the curry leaves and the red chilies are instantly cooked. The minute you place them in, they're tempered, and you're going to transfer all of this into your lentils cooker. Sorry. Look at that. That's the tempered spices that go into the lentil, and you're going to mix them well. Yeah, it is as simple as it sounds. The folders on Discord. It's quite useful actually. Look at that. Look at those amazing, delicious yellow lentils. I grabbed the ladle to get a closer look at it, and it's smelling wonderful with all the tempered spices. There's a lot of oil in it, isn't it? Yeah, there is around 4 tablespoons, Danator. Since this is being, I'm cooking this for around 5 people, so whatever ingredients I take is, if you're cooking for 2 or 3 people or 2 people, you'll just be reducing the amount of whatever I have mentioned in my recipe. But Indian cooking is always rich, and we use ghee, clarified butter, we use extra virgin olive oil, so we take a little bit of what do you call it, we take a bit of oil. We don't shy away from using a little bit of extra oil, that extra tablespoon or extra 1.5 tablespoons, because we are using a little bit of healthier options. It's not completely healthy, but you get the point. Oof, looking good. I think the oof triggered the. But there you see the lentils. You check for salt at this point. If you feel the salt is less, if the seasoning's less, you mix it, add some salt and mix it up well. Because after the spices go into the lentils, after the ghee goes into the lentils, you need to check for salt, and your lentil is ready to serve. Look at the curry leaves. Look at the nice yellow color, the burnt garlic, and the the red chilies, the tomatoes. Mmm, delicious. I have oof as a keyword, and I think rip as a keyword. Those are the two keywords for the respect command. Once you turn off the stove, once you turn off the heat on your lentils, you're going to add in your finely chopped coriander, and then give it a good mix so that the coriander mixes with your lentils. Coriander is just a garnishing, and this is optional, honestly. If you don't want coriander, if you don't like coriander, like Petit here, you can skip on the coriander part. It's just garnishing. It does give a little bit of flavor, but it's actually garnishing. I got a good appetite the second I tuned in. I'm happy. I'm happy to hear that, Dana. Wait, let me ask you. How do I say your name? Is it Dana or Dana? Because I have a friend from Canada, and when I called her Dana, she got really upset because her name's called out Dana. We're going to now, once our lentils is ready, we're going to be cooking the cumin rice. So for cooking our jeera rice or cumin flavored rice, you'll need cooked rice. So have white basmati rice cooked, 1.5 cups. And after cooking the rice, you can see it's long grain. It's separate from each other. It isn't stuck to each other. I have cooled the cooked rice down. I took all the cooked rice in a wide plate, spread it up, and let it cool down. I'm using a karai to make my jeera rice. To this, I'm going to add in oil. I'm going to add in 3 tablespoons of oil. Not the Canadian US version. All right, done. That's good. Then once your oil is hot, you're going to add in your cumin. What happened here was when I was adding in cumin, I recorded it. All right, but something happened. My hand didn't click the record button or something, and when I was adding in cumin, it didn't record. And I only realized that afterwards when I'm like, wait a minute, I don't see the record icon. And then I started recording after I added in my cumin, and I felt like an idiot. But add in 3 teaspoons of cumin to your hot oil, and you're going to saute the cumin for approximately 50 to 60 seconds, so a minute. The cumin loses its bright color, starts turning a bit darker, and you shouldn't you jeera rice, cumin rice depends heavily on the flavor of the cumin. If it's undercooked, the rice doesn't receive enough of the cumin flavor. If it's overcooked or burnt, it receives the burnt cumin flavor, which is not good. So you need to saute it until they're this color that I just showed, a dark brown color. So it takes around 50 seconds on high heat to get it uh, to that color. And once the cumin is ready, you're going to add in your cooked rice. Slowly place your cooked rice into the kadai. I'm surprised you guys didn't see that earlier already, Slith and Ran. It's pretty useful. I already sorted out my little bit itty bitty servers that I'm a part of. Once you add in your rice, you're going to add in salt. I have taken a teaspoon of salt, but salt is according to your taste. You're going to add in some salt to the rice, and then you're going to start mixing the rice so that the cumin, the oil, and the salt mixes, and you get your flavored cumin rice or jeera rice ready. A simple little dish, uh, an additional of like what 5 minutes after you cook your rice. Well, the cooling aspect actually takes longer than the cooking aspect of jeera rice. You need to let your cooked rice cool for at least 15 minutes. But a small little step to elevate your white rice basically, and to give it more flavor, give it a richer taste. Just one simple spice, cumin, and it just makes the rice more delicious. It's like, it gives that freshness too. Cumin is a really fresh spice. You can top it off with coriander again, but if you're picky and you don't like coriander, you can skip the coriander. I skipped the coriander because I had coriander in my lentils, so I skipped the coriander in my rice. But if you want to have it a bit more fresh, a bit more minty, you can add in the coriander. And here is the dish served. You have jeera rice along with dal tadka. Look at that delicious, delicious dal and the jeera rice. Mmm. A lot of Indians would see this and they would be like, "What? You're showcasing dal?" Because it's that common here. It's a part of everyday meal. But cook this and eat it at home. It's delicious. It's nutritious. It's easy to make, and it's a win-win for everyone.